After over 25 years of wide experience, Rhein83 is proud to introduce OT Unilateral new attachment line. Born from the linking together of two of its most popular attachment lines, OT Cap and OT Strategy. This new OT Unilateral line gets the best advantages and ease of use of the two earlier lines in a single elastic retentive solution. See catalogue pages 36 to 37. Parallelometer mandrel OT Cap Micro, diameter 1.8 mm. Caps inserter OT Cap Normo and Micro. Caps inserter OT Strategy. Retentive caps. Retentive caps OT Cap Micro, diameter 1.8 mm. Retentive caps OT Strategy for duplication. Thanks to the different caps retention levels, you are able to monitor the attachment's resiliency depending on tissue thickness. The space available between the components has been CAD set up in order to obtain the right resiliency. This will avoid loading stress on the main abutments. Thanks to the cap's resiliency, the denture will always get back to its prior rest position, and therefore the tissues won't suffer any kind of stress. The simple and convenient OT Unilateral attachment is suited for free saddle prosthetics, both bilateral or unilateral. It is possible to duplicate the attachment, but not necessary. OT Unilateral attachment gives to the denture the right mix between rigid and resilient retention, thanks to the combined characteristics of the two systems in use. Hands-on stage. First, detect the insertion axe in order to use the attachment correctly. Using a pencil, just point out the centre of the tissue ridge together with the occlusal axe. A micro OT cap parallelometer mandrel is needed to work with OT Unilateral. Take out the attachment piece from the kit and position it onto the mandrel tip, being careful not to tighten up the mandrel screw too much. Then connect the mandrel to the parallelometer and position the attachment a little on the lingual side, in order to also adjust the aesthetics to the best functionality. In the case of a limited occlusal space, we can reduce the OT Unilateral attachment right along the ridge side, being careful to also make up the uni-box piece at the same time. Do not file the pieces too much in order not to compromise functionality or risk breakage. Position the OT Unilateral attachment using the proper mandrel and fix it with wax or adhesive components, being careful not to spill wax on the vertical surface around or on the occlusal rest close to the crown during this procedure. In the event of touching these surfaces with wax, polish them immediately. The red-coloured positioner ring needs to be set over the sphere at this point. It comes along with the kit. With clean vertical surfaces free of any wax residual, the uni-box overstructure will fit perfectly. In order to check for the best fitting, you can refer to the position between the OT Unilateral proximal area and the Unibox, since they should fit perfectly. Also, the red positioner ring should rise a few millimeters up from the Unibox, as you can see on the video. Using calibrated wax of proper thickness, we set up the distal extension saddle resin layer. The flat surface of the connector will rest over the ridge surface. The concave surface comes into contact with the saddle resin. To reduce the risk of breakage, we set the yellow connector, waxing it as a reinforcement bar to the distal saddle. When fixing up the connector, always be careful not to get any debris of material in the strategy box, in order not to modify its volume and then its functionality. Sprue both structures following a proper casting procedure. Always remember to remove the red positioner ring from the top of the sphere or from the internal siege of the Unibox before casting. Put both structures into the same casting cylinder in order to get the best results, and use fine powdered investment material. A Vickers hardness alloy from 240 up is suggested for casting, even though any alloy might be used. When sandblasting, always protect spheres with black lab processing caps in order not to get any erosion and consequent loss of the original dimension. If any of the above correct suggestions have been followed during procedures, the cast structures should work properly. Polish and refine the vertical surfaces on the Unibox. Do not touch any strategy or OT cap box's surface. If electro-polishing is needed, always protect the spheres with black lab processing caps. Once the crowns have been covered and shaped, so that the aesthetics are satisfied, we can go ahead and polish the base of the retentive males, being careful to prevent the sphere's erosion, using black lab processing caps, also in order not to lose the original dimensions. You can lightly polish the spheres just using a very soft cotton burr. If a trial check is needed before finishing the unilateral saddle, you can use lab processing caps, because they are free of retentive undercuts and have an extremely light retention level. A few unilateral saddle prosthetic cases completed. First case. Second case. Third case. Bilateral saddle prosthetic cases completed. This attachment is particularly suited to the creation of free saddle prosthetics, both unilateral or bilateral. You can also use this attachment in combined prosthetics together with metal frames. directly set on master models using self-curing resin components with no duplication needed and saving both cost and time during procedures. If traditional procedures are preferred, such as duplication of the master models, the techniques are the usual ones. This attachment can also be used on bar connections between implants, with a cantilever resiliency technique. Thanks to its wide versatility, the space available between the components has been CAD set up in order to obtain the right resiliency.